Jonathan could have walked away. He could have ended the segment right there, held his composure, given a clean soundbite, and disappeared behind the curtain like so many others. But he DN'd single quotes to Dot. He stayed, not to argue, not to convince, but to be present, and something about that unsettled Whoopi more than any theology ever had. You know, she said, her voice low, I've met pastors, priests, evangelists, and every single one of them had something to prove, a point to push. But you, she stopped, you're just sitting here, crying. He didn't flinch. Because it matters, he whispered. To you, she said. No, he said. To him, her voice rose. To him. You mean this Jesus, the one who watched people suffer and did nothing? No, Jonathan said, firm. He suffered with them. He leaned forward. He wept. He bled. He broke, not to escape pain, but to show us he would never leave us in it. Whoopi looked away. Her voice cracked for the first time. Well, where was he? When I lost my mom. When I was 10 and begged him not to take her. Jonathan's eyes filled again. I'm so sorry, he whispered. She wiped her cheek quickly. I sat at her hospital bed and prayed harder than I've ever prayed, and all I got was silence. That silence, Jonathan said, wasn't abandonment. Then what was it? He exhaled. Grief. Even God grieves. She shook her head. I don't want a God who grieves. I want one who saves. He does. Both. Silence. You think he was there, that night, in that room? Yes, he said. Then why didn't he do anything? Jonathan swallowed. I don't know. I wish I did. But I believe he was holding you, even when you didn't feel it. And I believe he's still holding you. Even now, her lip trembled. Just for a second. Then why do I still feel alone? Because pain has a loud voice. But love whispers, and it takes time to hear it again. She turned her face slightly away, and for the first time, didn't interrupt him. Sonny spoke carefully. Jonathan, you don't seem angry at her, at God, at anyone. I used to be, he admitted. Then what changed? I realized. Pain doesn't have to be an enemy. Sometimes it's the doorway. To what? To surrender. To healing. To finally letting go of the illusion that I can fix myself. He looked at Whoopi. You've carried that loss a long time, and I can't fix it. But I can tell you, this God hasn't stopped loving you for even a second. She didn't speak, didn't argue, didn't look up. The studio lights hummed. Even the audience was quiet. Jonathan leaned back, eyes still full. I cried when you said what you said, not because it offended me, but because I felt the hurt beneath it. He paused, and I think, part of you wants him to be real. Because if he is, then maybe your pain isn't meaningless. Maybe your mom didn't die alone. A breath caught in her throat. She covered it with a cough. But it was there. That fracture, that unspoken longing. Joy gently broke the silence. Jonathan, what do you want people watching this to take away? He turned to her. That it's okay to not have it all figured out. It's okay to wrestle. It's okay to cry. But don't shut the door on love, just because it didn't arrive the way you expected. Sonny added quietly. Sometimes the deepest truths come wrapped in pain. He nodded. Double quotes, yes. And sometimes, tears are proof that your heart is still alive, still longing, still open. Whoopi whispered, I don't know how to pray anymore. You just did. Tears streamed down her face now. Unstoppable. Unhidden. Is he listening? Jonathan's voice shook. He never stopped. And in that moment, something sacred happened. Not loud. Not theatrical. Just a woman who had fought God with her words. Finally, allowing him into her silence. The audience didn't clap. They cried. Because no one expected this. Not a confrontation. But a crack in the armor. And through it light. Because grace doesn't need applause. Just permission. And for the first time in years, Whoopi gave it. She looked at Jonathan, eyes red, heart raw. What do I do now? He smiled. Talk to him. I don't know what to say. Then just say that. She breathed deep, a shaky, heavy breath. And the woman who once mocked Jesus, now whispered the first true thing in a long time. God, I'm tired. Jonathan nodded, tears falling again. That's enough. He hears you. And with that, the moment turned. Not in spectacle, but in surrender. She didn't become someone new. She just became someone honest. And that's where faith begins. The lights were still on, but the show was over. Not officially, but spiritually. Something had happened. Not on the teleprompter, not in the script, but in the soul. Jonathan sat quietly, hands folded, tears drying on his face. Whoopi didn't speak. Not right away. Her fingers trembled in her lap. She wasn't hiding anymore. She had nothing left to defend. Nothing left to prove. Just herself. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. Sunny finally broke the silence. This was supposed to be just another segment. Joy nodded, her voice soft. But this was something else. Jonathan looked up, eyes still wet. Sometimes the story we plan gets interrupted by the story we need. Whoopi nodded slowly. Still no words. Just a long exhale, like she'd been holding her breath for years. Jonathan turned to her. I don't need you to believe what I believe, he said. But I want you to know, you're not alone. Not in your grief. Not in your anger. Not even in your doubt. She finally spoke. I feel different. Not fixed, he added gently. No, not fixed. But lighter, he smiled. That's grace. She closed her eyes. I used to think grace was a myth. It's not, he whispered. It's a person. Her eyes opened. And he still wants me. He never stopped. The audience stayed silent, as if afraid to breathe. Because what they were witnessing wasn't performance. It was presence. Jonathan sat back. There are people watching this right now who've walked away from faith, or never had it to begin with. And maybe they think it's too late. He looked into the camera. It's not. He paused. If there's breath in your lungs, there's time to come home. Whoopi wiped a tear from her cheek. But this one wasn't from pain. It was something else. Something softer. She laughed. Just a little. I didn't expect to cry today. Jonathan nodded. Most healing sneaks up on us. Joy leaned forward. Jonathan, I've seen a lot of guests come through this table, but none of them left this kind of silence. He looked at her. Sometimes silence is where the healing begins. Sunny smiled through tears. You came here to promote a show, and ended up touching souls. He smiled back. I didn't come to promote anything. I came because I believe. Love still changes people. He looked again at Whoopi. And it just did. She met his gaze, steady now. I don't know if I'll go to church, or read a Bible, or do any of it. You don't have to. Then what do I do? He answered softly. Just keep being honest with God. Even if it's messy, even if it's angry. He'd rather have your honesty than your silence. She closed her eyes again. For once, she didn't need the last word. She didn't need control, or applause, or armor. She just breathed, and that was enough. The music began to play. Quiet, gentle, the wrap-up cue. But no one moved, because the show didn't need a bow. It needed a pause. A reverent breath for what had just taken place. Faith had walked into a room full of skepticism, not with force, not with fury, but with tears. And it broke something open. Not just in Whoopi, but in everyone watching. Because if grace can find her, it can find any of us. And that is what makes the gospel more than a myth. It makes it real. Jonathan stood, offered his hand. Whoopi stood too. She took it, and in that handshake there was no debate, no sides, no doctrine, just peace. And that's how it ended. Not with a shout, not with a headline, but with a whisper, a tear, and a truth that lingered long after the credits rolled. The moment Whoopi said it, the room fell silent. It wasn't the silence of awe. It was the silence that follows something deep, something cold. Jonathan Roumie sat there, frozen. The cameras still rolling, the lights still bright. But something inside him dimmed. It wasn't a question. It wasn't even a joke. It was a statement. Blunt, sharp, and loud enough to echo beyond the studio. Jesus was just a man. A good one maybe. But nothing more. People worship a myth. Those were her exact words. And Jonathan, the man known to millions as the face of Jesus on The Chosen, could only stare back, not in anger, not even shock, but something deeper, something breaking. Because that wasn't just a dig at faith. It was a wound reopened. He looked down, blinked fast, trying to hold it in, but you could see it. Something cracked behind his eyes. He tried to speak. I don't think you understand. Whoopi cut him off. I understand perfectly. I've been told all my life to believe in something invisible, to obey rules written by men centuries ago, to pray to a sky god that never answered. She leaned back, and I stopped pretending. That's all. Jonathan looked up, his voice barely above a whisper. You think it's pretending? She nodded. I think it's easier for people to create a god than to face their own emptiness. That did it. His throat tightened. His eyes glossed. Not because she insulted him, but because of what it meant. She wasn't just mocking Jesus. She was revealing her pain. But the way it came out, Sharp, loud, relentless. Felt like a punch straight to the soul. And still, he didn't fight back. He just sat there, silent, because sometimes words aren't enough. Sometimes all you can do is feel. Thought the audience didn't clap, didn't laugh. They watched. And somewhere in the stillness, you could see it. A single tear falling down Jonathan's cheek. He didn't wipe it. He let it fall. And that was louder than anything he could have said. What Whoopi didn't realize in that moment was that her words weren't breaking Jonathan's faith. They were confirming it. Because when you speak against the sacred, and someone responds with grace, you see the difference between noise and truth. The segment hadn't even reached its midpoint. And yet, something irreversible had already happened. The viewers didn't tune in to watch a debate. But now, they couldn't look away. Because this wasn't acting. This wasn't television. This was a man breaking and believing. Anyway, Jonathan sat in that chair, trying to find his breath. Not because he didn't know what to say, but because what he felt was too deep for words. The cameras didn't blink, the lights didn't dim. But the atmosphere, it shifted. Whoopi leaned back, arms crossed, satisfied. You all act like belief is bravery, she said. But to me, it's just fear with better branding. Jonathan's eyes didn't leave her, his voice calm, gentle. No, he said. Belief is surrender, not fear. She scoffed. Surrender to what? A story. A man nailed to wood thousands of years ago. I don't get it. You don't have to, he replied. Not yet. But that story, it saved me. Sonny spoke up, cautious. Jonathan, when you say it saved you, what do you mean? Like, really? He turned toward her. His voice dropped. Low. Real. I mean, I was lost. Not on the outside, but inside. I was chasing fame, approval, attention. And the more I got, the emptier I felt. He looked down for a beat. There were nights I couldn't sleep. Nights I didn't want to wake up. I had the role. I had the press. But I didn't have peace. Joy looked stunned. You're saying you were depressed? He nodded. I was drowning. Quietly. Whoopi raised an eyebrow. And Jesus fixed that. No, he said. He found me in it. The silence hung there. Sonny swallowed. What happened? Jonathan smiled faintly. One morning, I was alone. My heart felt heavy like something was pressing on my chest. I remember whispering, if you're real, please, I can't keep doing this. He paused. His voice caught for a moment, and I felt it. Not thunder, not lightning, just peace. Like someone had stepped into the room and held my soul still. He exhaled. And from that moment, everything changed. Whoopi shook her head. That's just your brain. Chemicals we all want to feel safe. No, he said. It wasn't safety. It was surrender. It wasn't emotion. It was encounter. Joy asked softly. You're saying Jesus was there? I'm saying I met him. Not in a church. Not in a sermon. In silence. In surrender. And that was the first time. I knew I was loved for who I was, not for what I could perform. The audience was silent. Even Whoopi didn't speak, but you could see it. The tension in her jaw. The twitch of her fingers. She was fighting something. Inside, Jonathan looked at her. I don't know what you've been through, he said, but I know pain when I see it. She tried to laugh. Don't psychoanalyze me. I'm empathizing. You don't know me. You're right. I don't. He leaned forward. But I see a woman who's been told to be strong her whole life. To never flinch. To never soften. And I wonder if that armor is getting heavy. Whoopi blinked hard. Looked away. I don't need pity, she said. This isn't pity, he said. It's invitation. To what? To rest. She scoffed again. You think Jesus is going to fix me? No. I think he wants to know you. And when he does, the rest happens on its own. Sonny whispered. That's actually kind of beautiful. Jonathan didn't move. He doesn't demand perfection. Just presence. Just a whisper of I'm here. That's enough. Joy cleared her throat. Can I ask something real? Of course. What do you say to people who think it's all made up? That Christianity is a scam, a system of control? He nodded. I'd say, they're not wrong about the control part. Religion has been used for power, for judgment, for manipulation. He looked into the camera. And that's why so many people walk away, not from God, but from the people who used his name for their own gain. He paused. But if you strip all that away, the politics, the power, the noise, you're left with a man, a carpenter who touched lepers, who wept, who forgave the ones who killed him. He took a breath. And if that's not love, I don't No, what is? The studio remained frozen. No producer interrupted. No transition. Music. Just silence. Because this wasn't just a segment anymore. This was a sacred pause. Jonathan looked at Whoopi again. I don't expect you to agree, but I need you to know. You're not hated. You're not my enemy. You're not unworthy. He leaned back. You're exactly who he came for. That hit something. She didn't show it. Not yet. But her shoulders sank. Her eyes shifted. Her voice, when it came, was softer. You ever been betrayed by the church? Yes, he said. By people I trusted. By leaders I respected. But Jesus didn't betray me. People did. Then how can you still believe? Because he never left. Even when they did. Whoopi bit her lip. I want to believe, but I don't know how. Jonathan smiled gently. Start with honesty. Start with, I don't know. Start with, help me. That's all it takes. She looked away, and that moment was more powerful than any sermon. Because faith isn't born in shouting. Matches. It's born in surrender. In honesty. The audience watched. Silent. Changed. Jonathan spoke again, his voice just above a whisper. You don't have to carry it alone. He's already carried it. All of it. And as those words landed, you could feel something sacred taking shape. Not forced, not scripted, just true. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing in the world isn't someone winning an argument. It's someone standing in love when they have every reason to run.